Have you ever been in a situation where you stumbled upon something so unexpected, so strange that it shook your beliefs about the people you thought you knew well? Tonight, I'm about to share a story that began with what looked like a mistake, but ended up changing everything I thought I knew about loyalty, secrets, and the human heart. But before we dive into this unforgettable night, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel because what I'm about to tell you is something you won't want to miss until the very end. It was late on a Friday night when the office finally emptied out. My shift had run longer than expected, and I stayed back to finish a presentation for Monday's client meeting. The air outside was heavy with silence, the kind that only comes after midnight in a city that never really sleeps. I packed my bag, switched off the lights, and stepped out into the cool night. The office building's parking lot was nearly deserted. A few cars scattered under dim yellow street lamps. That's when I noticed her. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. But as I walked closer to the far corner of the lot, there she was, my colleague's wife, sitting alone on the hood of her car, her arms wrapped tightly around herself as if she was holding back a storm. She was dressed in a plain beige cardigan over a black dress, her long hair untied and falling messily over her shoulders. I froze for a moment because in my mind, she wasn't supposed to be there. My colleague, Iran, was a cheerful man, always talking about how much he loved his wife, Sa. They seemed inseparable, so why was she sitting there in the middle of the night all alone, looking as though she had the weight of the world pressing down on her? I hesitated but then walked toward her slowly. "Sana," I said gently. She looked up quickly, startled at first, and then forced a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Oh, it's you," she whispered as if relieved, but still guarded. "I didn't expect anyone else to be here this late." Her voice trembled, and the moment I noticed it, I knew something was wrong. But I also knew it wasn't my place to pry. She was my colleague's wife, not mine. Still, there was a heaviness in the way she sat there. A loneliness so raw that it almost demanded someone to acknowledge it. "Are you okay?" I asked, trying to sound casual, but my chest tightened with curiosity. She paused for a long time before answering. I just needed some air. Sometimes the walls at home feel like they're closing in." She gave a nervous laugh, but her hands trembled when she adjusted the cardigan over her shoulders. Something inside me wanted to push further, but I also feared crossing a boundary. My mind screamed questions. Was she fighting with Imran? Was something going on? Was she in danger? I leaned against the car parked next to hers and said, "It's not safe to be out here this late. Do you want me to wait until you're ready to go?" She looked at me with eyes so full of pain that it was almost unbearable. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I can't go home right now. Not tonight." Her words cut through me like a blade. Why couldn't she go home? Imran always spoke of her with pride, with affection. Was he hiding something, or was she? The night suddenly felt darker and the silence louder. I stayed quiet, hoping she would continue. And after a long pause, she did. "You know how people pretend their lives are perfect," she said softly. "Well, ours isn't. Not at all. And sometimes I wish someone could see me the way I really am, not just as Iran's wife." Her voice cracked and my heart clenched at the vulnerability pouring out of her. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to tell her she wasn't alone. Another part of me screamed that this was dangerous territory, dangerous for her, dangerous for Imran, and dangerous for me. But before I could say anything, she stood up abruptly, wiped her eyes, and forced another one of those brittle smiles. "Forget it," I shouldn't be saying all this. It's late. You should go. I hesitated, torn between walking away and staying. I wanted to respect her boundaries, but I also couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was happening beneath the surface. As I got into my car, I looked at her one last time. She stood there under the flickering street lamp, her shadow stretching long across the empty lot. Alone, fragile, but carrying some secret I couldn't even begin to understand. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying her words. I can't go home right now. Not tonight. What did she mean? What was waiting for her at home? Or who? And why did her voice sound like a silent scream for help? The next few days at work, I kept noticing Imran. He seemed his usual self, laughing, joking, showing me pictures of the new dishes his wife had cooked. He looked like the happiest man alive. But every time I saw him, I remembered the look on Sa's face that night, the fear, the exhaustion, the silent plea. And every time he mentioned her name with pride, I wondered if he truly knew what was happening in his own home. I told myself to stay out of it. It wasn't my business. But fate had other plans. 3 nights later, as I drove home from work, I saw her again. This time, not in the parking lot, but at a small roadside cafe, sitting alone at an outdoor table. The cup in front of her was untouched, her eyes staring blankly into the night. I parked my car before I even realized what I was doing. "Sana," I said softly as I approached. She blinked as if waking from a dream, and for the first time, I noticed the dark circles under her eyes. She looked tired, not just physically, but in her soul. "What are you doing here again alone?" I asked, unable to hide my concern. She sighed, running her fingers along the rim of the cup. "Sometimes being at home feels unbearable." Her voice was softer this time, weaker, and that weakness struck something deep inside me. I sat down across from her, ignoring the voice in my head that said this was a bad idea. "You don't have to tell me," I said gently. "But if you ever need someone to listen, I'm here." That broke her. Tears filled her eyes and she lowered her head into her hands. For a long time, she didn't speak, just let the silence and the sound of passing cars surround us. Then finally, she whispered, "Imran isn't who you think he is." The words sent a chill down my spine. My mind raced with possibilities, each darker than the last. "What do you mean?" I asked carefully. She lifted her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. He's not cruel in the way people imagine. But he's distant. He's gone for hours, days, sometimes without explanation. And when he's home, he's there in body, but not in spirit. I feel invisible. I feel like I don't exist. And when I try to ask him, he shuts me out completely. Her confession shattered the image I had of Imran. The man who bragged about his wife's cooking, who seemed so cheerful at work, was in reality building walls around himself at home. And Sana was trapped behind those walls, suffocating in silence. "I thought marriage was supposed to be about sharing life together," she whispered. "But sometimes I feel like I'm just a ghost in my own house." I sat there speechless, my heart heavy with emotions I didn't know how to process. On one hand, I pitied her. On the other, I felt an anger toward Imran for creating this void in her life. And somewhere in the middle, I felt guilty for being the one she confided in when it should have been him. The night stretched on, and we spoke in fragments. Her fears, her loneliness, the dreams she once had but now felt slipping away. I didn't try to solve her problems. I just listened. Sometimes that's all someone needs. When she finally stood up to leave, she looked at me with a softness I hadn't seen before. "Thank you," she whispered. for seeing me that night. As I watched her walk away, I realized the truth. Sometimes the greatest battles people fight are the ones no one else sees. Behind every smile could be a storm. Behind every perfect couple could be untold loneliness. And as I drove home, I thought of all the people around me, colleagues, friends, even strangers. How many of them were silently breaking inside just like Saw? How many carried secrets too heavy for them to bear alone? So the next time you see someone looking lost or sitting alone at night, remember you never really know what they're going through. Maybe, just maybe, all they need is someone to listen. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this, because sometimes real life is more emotional and more mysterious than fiction itself.